The rain came down like judgment over Norfolk Naval Station, cold and relentless, turning the world into shades of gray that matched the steel of the warships docked in the harbor. It was November 15th, and the kind of weather that made smart people seek shelter. But Sarah Kane wasn't looking for shelter. She was walking straight into the storm, one boot in front of the other. Her leather jacket soaked through her duffel bag, heavy on her shoulder. 29 years old, she felt ancient. The security checkpoint emerged through the sheets of rain like a fortress gate, and she made no attempt to avoid it. In fact, she walked directly toward it, toward the armed guards and the scanners and the cameras and all the machinery designed to keep people exactly like her out. Or rather, people like who she used to be. People who officially no longer existed. The guard was young, maybe 22, with that fresh-faced eagerness of someone who'd never seen real combat. His hand rested on his sidearm, not threatening yet, just ready. His partner hung back, already reaching for his radio. "Ma'am, stop right there." The young guard's voice carried the authority of someone trying very hard to sound authoritative. "This is a restricted area. You need authorization to proceed." Sarah stopped. Rain ran down her face. She didn't wipe it away, just stood there completely still. The kind of stillness that comes from countless hours of training, from knowing how to make yourself invisible, even when you're standing in plain sight. "I said this is a restricted area," the guard repeated louder now, uncertainty creeping into his voice. Slowly, deliberately, Sarah reached into her jacket pocket. The guard's hand tightened on his weapon. His partner took a step forward, speaking urgently into his radio. She produced a military ID card, worn at the edges, laminated surface scratched from years of use. She held it out without a word. The guard took it, studied it under his flashlight. His frown deepened with each passing second. "This ID expired 4 years ago." "I know. Ma'am, you can't just walk onto a naval base with expired credentials." "Check them," Sarah said. Her voice was calm, steady, the voice of someone who'd given orders under fire and expected them to be followed. "Run them through your system. Call your commanding officer. Do whatever you need to do. I'll wait." The guard's partner had finished his radio call. 2 more figures emerged from the security building, moving fast. Military police. Their expressions shifted from routine to hostile in the space of a heartbeat. "That's not going to happen," the young guard said, and now his hand was actually on his weapon thumb on the safety. "You're coming with us." The taller MP grabbed Sarah's arm. His grip was firm, practiced the grip of someone who'd done this 1,000 times before. "Ma'am, you're under arrest for attempting to access a restricted military installation with fraudulent credentials." Sarah didn't resist, didn't argue, didn't explain. "And for impersonating a naval officer," the MP continued, his voice cold with contempt, "specifically a Navy SEAL, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you." As they cuffed her hands behind her back, Sarah almost laughed. Almost. They had no idea who they'd just arrested, no idea at all. They led her past the security building, past the administrative offices, past a group of young female recruits running morning PT in the rain. The recruits stopped to watch, their faces twisted with contempt and disgust. "Stolen valor," one of them whispered, loud enough to be heard. "Pathetic." Sarah heard it. Her jaw tightened, but she kept walking. Some truths were too classified to defend. Some truths would get people killed if they were spoken aloud. So she said nothing. Just let them think what they wanted to think. Let them believe she was exactly what she appeared to be. A fraud, a liar, a woman pretending to be something she could never be. The interrogation room was exactly what she expected. Steel table bolted to the floor. 2 chairs, one-way mirror taking up the entire back wall. Fluorescent lights that made everyone look sick and guilty, even when they were innocent. They sat her in the chair facing the mirror, hands still cuffed behind her back. Water dripped from her jacket onto the concrete floor. Drip, drip, drip. She counted them. 16 drips per minute. 45 minutes since they'd brought her in. 720 drips total. She'd learned to count things when the alternative was screaming, when the alternative was remembering things that would break her if she let them. The door opened. Commander Holloway entered like a man who'd already decided she was guilty. 45 years old, 23 years in the Navy, the kind of career man who'd seen enough liars to spot them in his sleep. He carried a thin file folder, not much in it, just her expired ID and whatever preliminary information they'd managed to scrape together. He sat across from her and didn't speak for a full minute, studying her, taking in the way she held herself despite the cuffs, the controlled breathing, the stillness that wasn't nervousness, but something else entirely. Something he couldn't quite identify. "You're telling me you were a SEAL?" His voice carried the particular skepticism of a man who'd never met a female operator in his entire career. Never even heard of one. Sarah met his eyes, didn't blink, didn't look away. I'm not telling you anything, Commander. I'm waiting for someone with the clearance to have this conversation. Holloway's jaw tightened. We've checked every record. There's no female on any SEAL team roster during your claimed service years. None. Zero. The database doesn't lie. That's because those records are classified beyond your clearance level. Convenient. Accurate. Holloway leaned forward, elbows on the table, trying to intimidate with proximity. It might have worked on someone else. Someone who hadn't spent years learning to face down men twice their size who wanted them dead. You know what's interesting? We get wannabes all the time. Guys who read books, memorize some lingo, maybe even get a fake trident tattoo. They always slip up eventually. Wrong terminology, wrong protocol, wrong something. He paused, studying her with new intensity. But you haven't made a single mistake, not one. Every term you've used, every protocol you've referenced, every piece of knowledge you've demonstrated, it's all accurate. That's impressive. Thank you. But impressive doesn't make it true. Sarah said nothing. Her gaze drifted to the one-way mirror. Someone was watching. Multiple someones, probably. Making calls, checking databases, trying to figure out who she really was. Let them look. They wouldn't find what they were searching for. Not in any system they had access to. Tell me about Bud's training, Holloway said. You claim you completed it. Walk me through Hell Week. No, excuse me. I said no, I'm not performing for you, Commander. Either get someone with appropriate clearance of you in here, or charge me and let Jag sort it out. Holloway's eyes narrowed. He wasn't used to being refused. Wasn't used to suspects who seemed more in control of the interrogation than he was. You're facing federal charges. Impersonating a military officer carries serious penalties. I know exactly what the penalties are. Sarah's voice cut through his lecture like a blade. I also know you're stalling while someone runs my biometrics through classified databases. She tilted her head slightly. How long until they hit the firewall? Something flickered in Holloway's expression. Uncertainty. She'd touched a nerve and they both knew it. He recovered quickly. Let's try something else. Combat medicine. Sucking chest wound. Walk me through the treatment protocol. Sarah exhaled slowly. So that's how he wanted to play it. Test her knowledge, try to catch her in a lie. Fine. She could play this game. Three-sided occlusive dressing, she said, her voice flat and professional. Seal 3 sides, leave the 4th open to prevent tension pneumothorax. If you seal all 4 sides, trapped air collapses the lung. Time frame is under 90 seconds or the patient goes critical. Holloway's expression didn't change, but something in his posture shifted, just slightly. Now tell me the field expedient alternative when you don't have a chest seal. Sarah didn't hesitate. Cellophane wrapper from an MRE packet, 100-mile-per-hour tape. You can create a functional chest seal in 15 seconds. But here's what they don't teach in medical school. She leaned forward as much as the cuffs would allow. You have to apply it during exhalation. Time it wrong, tape it during inhalation, you trap air in the pleural space. Patient dies anyway, just slower. She paused, letting that sink in. I learned that in the Hindu Kush winter of 2017. My medic went down with a femoral bleed. I had to work on him while suppressing enemy fire with my offhand, 15 degrees below zero. He lived because I understood the variables they don't put in manuals. The room was very quiet now. Even the dripping water seemed to have stopped. Where'd you learn the chest seal trick? Holloway asked, and his voice had changed. Less skeptical, more curious. Watching a teammate die because we didn't have one. Improvise the next time. Never lost another man to a chest wound after that. Holloway sat back, stared at her for a long moment. Then he stood, abruptly walked to the one-way mirror, stared at his own reflection, at whoever was watching from the other side. Who are you? He asked quietly. Someone you don't have clearance to know about. He turned back to her. Everyone leaves traces, records, documentation. If you really were what you claim, there would be something. There was. Sarah's voice carried weight now. Finality. Then it was erased, deliberately, completely, by someone with the authority to make people disappear from history. Why best so? Because sometimes the missions matter more than the people who run them. Because sometimes the only way to protect an operation is to bury everyone involved. She paused. Because dead operators don't ask questions. And officially, that's what I am. Dead. 4 years dead. Holloway opened his mouth to respond, but the door burst open before he could speak. A young officer stuck his head in a face pale with something that looked like panic. Commander, you're needed outside, right now. I'm in the middle of... Sir, it's Admiral Mitchell. He's here, personally, and he's asking about the prisoner. The color drained from Holloway's face. Admiral James Mitchell wasn't the kind of man who showed up at interrogations. He was the kind of man who commanded fleets, who made decisions that affected thousands of lives, who hadn't been seen at this particular base in almost 5 years. Keep her here, Holloway ordered and left. Sarah sat alone in the room, listening to the drip of water from her jacket, counting seconds, breathing slowly the way she'd been trained, controlling her heart rate, preparing for what came next. When the door opened again, everything changed. The room seemed to shrink around him, not because of his physical size. Admiral James Mitchell was average height, lean build, the kind of frame that came from decades of discipline and fitness, or rather, than vanity. But his presence was something else entirely, a storm contained in human form. He wore service dress blues. His ribbons could have filled a wall, silver eagles on his collar. The weight of command in every deliberate movement. 62 years old, 40 years of service, a career that had taken him from the teams to the Pentagon and back. A man who'd made decisions that saved lives and cost them. Who'd sent young men and women into places where they might not return. Who carried those choices like stones in his pockets, heavy and permanent. The MPs who'd followed him in snapped to attention. Holloway, who'd re-entered behind the Admiral, stood rigid, barely breathing. Mitchell's eyes locked on Sarah. His face betrayed nothing, but something flickered in those eyes. Recognition, memory, something that might have been grief, might have been guilt, might have been both. Everyone out, he said. His voice was quiet but carried absolute authority. The kind of voice you didn't question. The kind of voice that had ordered men into fire and expected them to go. Sir, she's a suspect in... Now, Commander. Holloway hesitated for exactly 1 second. Then he left. The MPs followed. The door closed behind them with a heavy metallic thud that sounded like a coffin lid. Mitchell walked slowly around the table, stopped directly in front of Sarah. For a long moment, neither spoke. The silence stretched out thick and heavy with history, with things that couldn't be said, with memories that cut like broken glass. Stand up, he said finally. Not an order, a request. She stood. Roll up your left sleeve. Sarah's jaw tightened. This was it. The moment that would either validate everything or condemn her as the fraud they thought she was. She unbuttoned her cuff with awkward fingers, the handcuffs making it difficult. Rolled the sleeve up slowly past her wrist, past her forearm, to just below her elbow. There, inked into her skin, was a tattoo that no faker would dare replicate. Not the standard SEAL trident that thousands of operators wore with pride. This was different. A trident, yes, but modified. Unique. 7 small stars arranged around it, each one representing something that couldn't be spoken aloud. Ink work that had been done by hand, not in a shop. The kind of tattoo given in field conditions with improvised equipment. The kind of tattoo that hurt like hell and meant more than any metal. Mitchell stared at it for a long moment. His hands, steady as stone for 4 decades of service, trembled slightly. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. That tattoo's real. Yes, sir. I gave you that tattoo myself. Yes, sir. 5 years and 8 months ago, March 2019, in a medical tent in Yemen after a mission that officially never happened. Sarah met his eyes, held his gaze. After I watched my brother die, after we lost Marcus, after everything fell apart. Mitchell was quiet for a moment. Then he reached out and removed her handcuffs himself. His hands were gentle, almost fatherly. The cuffs fell away, clattering on the table. I thought you were dead, he said. I thought I'd killed you along with everyone else. You didn't kill anyone, Admiral. Didn't I? His voice cracked just slightly, the first crack she'd ever heard in his armor. I sent your team into that mission knowing the intelligence was questionable. I prioritized the objective over your safety. And when your brother died, when Marcus was taken, he stopped, collected himself. I made choices. David made a choice, Sarah said firmly. He saw the RPT, he saw it was going to hit me, and he stepped in front of it. That was his decision, his sacrifice, not your fault. And Marcus, was that my fault? Sarah's expression hardened. Marcus is why I'm here. Mitchell frowned. Marcus is dead. They confirmed it 5 years and 8 months ago, the ambush. They confirmed. They confirmed what they wanted us to believe. Sarah reached into her jacket, pulled out a waterproof envelope. I've been tracking intelligence for 18 months. He's alive, Admiral, being held at a facility near the Iran-Afghanistan border. And in 12 days, they're going to kill him. Mitchell took the envelope, opened it with hands that had started trembling again. Inside were photographs, satellite imagery, intelligence reports printed on paper instead of viewed on classified networks because classified networks left traces, and Sarah had learned to be a ghost. His face went pale as he studied the images. "That's not possible," he whispered. "It's not only possible, it's fact." Sarah pointed to one photograph, grainy but clear enough. A prisoner being moved between buildings, emaciated, beaten. But there on his visible forearm was the edge of a tattoo, a trident. "That's Petty Officer Marcus Priest Grant," Sarah said. 5 years and 8 months in enemy hands. 5 years and 8 months of torture, of holding out, of refusing to break, waiting for someone to come." Her voice hardened. "And in 12 days, they're going to permanently disappear him, which is a nice way of saying they're going to execute him and dump his body where no one will ever find it." Mitchell sat down heavily in the chair. Suddenly, he looked every one of his 62 years. Every choice he'd ever made, every man he'd ever lost, every burden he'd ever carried, all of it visible in his face. "An unsanctioned rescue mission," he said slowly, "into hostile territory, against an enemy that's been planning for exactly this scenario. That's not a mission, Captain. That's suicide. Probably. If you fail, it'll expose Project Phantom. Everything we did, every operator still alive. They'll all be compromised." "I know. If I help you," Mitchell's voice caught, "if I provide resources, personnel support, or it'll end my career. Court-martial at minimum. Prison at maximum. Everything I've built for 40 years. Gone." "I know." Sarah paused, held his gaze. "That's why I'm not asking you to help, Admiral. I'm asking you not to stop me." Mitchell was quiet for a long moment. Then he looked up at her. Really looked at her. Saw the 23-year-old kid who'd walked into his office 9 years ago, eyes bright with idealism and determination. Saw the 29-year-old woman standing before him now, forged in fire and guilt, in an iron determination that hadn't bent even when everything else had broken. "Your brother was the best operator I ever trained," he said quietly. "Until you came along, David used to tell me you were going to be better than him, that you had something he didn't." "What?" "The ability to make impossible choices and live with them." He stood up, extended his hand. "I can't bring David back. I can't undo what happened in Yemen, but I can help you bring Marcus home." Sarah took his hand, felt the weight of the commitment, the promise, the oath. "Thank you, Admiral." "Don't thank me yet, Captain. We might both hang for this. Some things are worth hanging for." Mitchell almost smiled. "Almost. Get yourself dried off and fed. Meet me at Building 7 at 2200 hours. I need to make some calls, pull in some favors, find us a team." Sarah nodded and started toward the door. "Captain," she turned back. "For what it's worth, I never stopped believing in you. Every day for 5 years and 8 months, I've thought about your team, about David, about what we lost and what we owed." His voice was rough with emotion he'd been holding back for years. "The past is done, Admiral. All we have now is forward." "Forward," he agreed. She left. The door closed behind her. Mitchell stood alone in the interrogation room, staring at the photographs of Marcus, at the evidence of 5 years and 8 months of suffering, at the reminder of what his choices had cost. He pulled out his phone and started making calls. Each one burning a bridge. Each one calling in favors that couldn't be repaid. Each one setting in motion something that would either save a life or destroy everything he'd ever built. The rain continued to fall outside. The ghost had returned, and now the real mission was about to begin. Building 7 sat at the edge of the base, the kind of structure that didn't appear on official maps. Sarah arrived 15 minutes early. Old habits. She'd changed into dry tactical pants, black long-sleeve shirt boots that had seen better days but still had miles left in them. The door was unlocked. She climbed the stairs to the second floor. Admiral Mitchell stood at a large table covered with maps and satellite imagery. 3 men waited in the shadows, and Sarah felt their eyes on her immediately, assessing, judging, deciding if she was worth following into hell. "Captain Kane," Mitchell said. "Come in." She entered. The door closed behind her with a finality that felt like sealing a tomb. "Gentlemen, this is Captain Sarah Kane, call sign Wraith, former Project Phantom. She's the mission commander for this operation. One of the men stepped forward into the light. 43 years old, medium build, hands that moved with the careful precision of someone trained in trauma medicine. His eyes were intelligent, analytical, and deeply skeptical. Petty Officer First Class Booker Reed, Mitchell introduced. Call sign Doc, combat medic. 3 tours, Iraq and Afghanistan. If someone gets hit, he's the one who decides if they live or die. Doc studied Sarah with unconcealed doubt, his arms crossed over his chest. No offense, ma'am, but I've never operated with a female. Not in combat, not ever. The room tensed, waiting for her response, testing how she'd handle the challenge. Sarah met his eyes calmly. Then let me show you why I'm still alive after 9 years of doing things that should have killed me. She moved to the table, pointed to the medical kit laid out among the equipment. Combat trauma, sucking chest wound, walk me through treatment. Doc's jaw tightened. He ran through the textbook answer. 3-sided dressing timing complications. Standard knowledge any medic would know. Correct, Sarah said. Now here's what they don't teach in medical school. She picked up a tourniquet from the kit. TIAT tourniquet. Standard application is 2 inches above the wound. But in winter conditions, hypothermia becomes a factor. Do you place the tourniquet over clothing or against skin? Against skin. Better pressure application? Wrong. Doc blinked. Winter operations, you place it over the clothing. The fabric provides insulation. You expose skin to apply a tourniquet in sub-freezing temperatures. You're adding frostbite trauma to bleeding trauma. Patient goes into shock faster. She dropped the tourniquet back on the table. I learned that in the Hindu Kush 22. My medic went down with a femoral bleed. I had to work on him while suppressing enemy fire with my offhand. 15 degrees below zero. He lived because I understood the variables they don't put in manuals. Doc was quiet for a long moment. Then he uncrossed his arms. Something like respect flickered in his eyes. Where'd you learn the chest seal trick you mentioned to the commander? Watching a teammate die because we didn't have one. Improvise the next time. Never lost another man to a chest wound after that. Doc nodded slowly, grudgingly. Okay, I'm listening. The second man stepped forward. 39 years old, lean and rangy with the permanent squint of someone who'd spent years looking through rifle scopes. His movements were economical, controlled, like he was always calculating with distances and angles even when he wasn't behind a weapon. Chief Petty Officer Garrett Stone, Mitchell said. Sniper, 92 confirmed kills across 4 deployments. If you need someone dead at 1,000 meters, he's your man. Stone's eyes were cold, professional, calculating. Let's talk ballistics, Captain. Sarah almost smiled. She'd been waiting for this. Your preferred caliber, she said. 338 Lapua Magnum, projectile weight 250 grain, Sierra Match King, ballistic coefficient 0.670. She moved to the map, pointed to the target compound. We're inserting here. 4,000 feet elevation. Winter conditions estimate 30 degrees Fahrenheit. Your primary overwatch position will be approximately 400 meters from the compound. 15 mile per hour crosswind from the west. Target is moving approximately 3 miles per hour east to west. She looked at him directly. Calculate your hold. Stone's eyes narrowed. This was the real test. The math that separated amateurs from professionals. The kind of calculation that made the difference between a clean kill and a wounded enemy who could still fight back. At 400 meters, drop compensation is 2.1 mils, he said, slowly thinking through each variable. But at 4,000 feet elevation, air density is roughly 10% less than sea level. That reduces drag, flattens trajectory. Actual drop is 1.9 mils. He was watching her face, looking for any sign he was wrong, looking for confirmation. She gave him nothing. Wind deflection at 400 meters with 15 mile per hour crosswind is approximately 1.2 mils right. Need to account for the Coriolis effect at that latitude. Northern hemisphere target moving east to west at 0.1 mil right. He paused, calculated. Temperature is critical. Standard ballistic tables assume 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Every 20-degree drop reduces muzzle velocity by approximately 1%. 30-degree ambient means 40-degree temperature differential. 2% velocity loss. That adds roughly 0.2 mils to the hold. He squared his shoulders. Total hold 2.1 mils, up 1.5 mils right. Lead the moving target by 0.3 mils. First round probability of hit 87%. You forgot one variable, Sarah said quietly. Stone's jaw tightened. What? Powder temperature. Your ammunition will be sitting in sub-freezing conditions for the 12-hour insert. Cold powder burns slower, reduces muzzle velocity by an additional 3%. Your actual hold needs another zero point 0.3 mils elevation compensation. She stepped closer to him. Without that correction, you're hitting low. Might wound instead of kill. In our operational environment, wounded enemies create more problems than dead ones. They scream, they call for help, they give away your position. Stone stared at her for a long moment. Then slowly his expression changed. Respect replacing skepticism. I've been shooting for 18 years, he said quietly. Nobody's ever caught that variable before. I've made that shot in those conditions, on a target that mattered. Did you hit? I'm standing here, aren't I? Stone extended his hand. Sarah shook it. I'd be honored to serve with you, Captain. The third man stepped forward, 36 years old, built like a boxer, compact and powerful. His hands were scarred from years of working with explosives. He moved with the careful confidence of someone who understood that one mistake could vaporize everyone in a 50-meter radius. Senior Chief Petty Officer Ethan Cole, Mitchell introduced. Breacher, explosive ordnance specialist, doors, walls, vehicles. If it needs to open, he makes it happen. Ethan didn't challenge her, didn't test her with questions. He just stood there studying her with an intensity that made Sarah's instincts prickle. Something in his eyes, something that looked like pain, like guilt, like a man carrying a weight he couldn't put down. I've heard about Wraith, he said quietly, urban legend in the teams. Operator who could move through hostile territory like smoke, who made impossible shots, who brought her people home no matter what. He paused. I thought you were a myth. Honored to find out you are real. Then his expression darkened. Ma'am, I need to ask. Yemen, is it true you left men behind? The room went silent. Doc and Stone tensed. Mitchell's hand moved slightly, ready to intervene. Sarah met Ethan's eyes directly. No flinching, no deflecting. Yes, the word hung in the air like smoke. Lieutenant David Kane, my brother. Petty Officer Marcus Grant, callsign Priest. David died protecting me from an RPG round. Marcus was captured because I chose to extract Petty Officer Donovan instead of staying to fight for him. Her voice was steady, but the pain underneath was evident. Raw. Honest. I've lived with that decision every day for 5 years and 8 months. I dream about it every night. I wake up, and the first thing I think about is whether I made the right call, whether I could have saved them both, whether I should have died trying. She stepped closer to Ethan. So yes, I left men behind, and I'll carry that weight for the rest of my life, which is exactly why I'll never do it again. Why I'm here, why I'm willing to risk everything to bring Marcus home, because I understand what it costs to leave someone behind. Her eyes hardened, and I won't pay that price twice. Ethan held her gaze for a long moment. Something passed between them. Understanding, recognition. The knowledge that they were both carrying weights that couldn't be put down. Then he nodded. That's good enough for me. I'm in. But as he turned away, Sarah caught something in his expression, a flicker of pain that went deeper than sympathy. His hand moved unconsciously to his pocket where the outline of a photograph was visible through the fabric. Mitchell stepped forward. We're all in. Now let's plan how we're going to do the impossible. They gathered around the table. 4 operators and an admiral who'd just committed treason. Maps and satellite imagery spread before them. Intelligence reports. Equipment lists. The raw materials of a mission that would either save a life or end theirs. Sarah took point. This was her mission, her plan, her responsibility. Target location, she said, indicating the satellite image. Compound approximately 80 kilometers inside hostile territory. Mountainous terrain, winter conditions, heavy guard presence. She traced the perimeter with her finger. This isn't a standard prison. It's an intelligence facility designed specifically to hold high-value prisoners and extract information. 12-man quick reaction force, 4-hour rotating shifts, 2 guard towers with overlapping fields of fire, roving patrols on irregular patterns, motion sensors along the perimeter. Doc leaned in studying the images. How do we know Marcus is even there? Sarah produced more photographs, grainy but clear enough. This was taken 6 days ago, prisoner being moved between buildings. She pointed. Look at his forearm. The edge of a tattoo was visible, a trident. That's Petty Officer Marcus Grant, 5 years and 8 months in enemy hands. Still alive, still holding out. How do you know he hasn't broken? Stone asked. That's a long time. Because if he had, we wouldn't be having this conversation. They're keeping him alive because he hasn't given them what they need. They're still trying to extract information about Phantom, about our operations, about classified mission parameters. Her voice hardened. But according to intercepted communications, they're done being patient. In 12 days, they're going to permanently disappear him, which is a nice way of saying they're going to execute him and dump his body where no one will ever find it. She looked at each of them in turn. We have a 12-day window. After that, he's gone forever. Ethan pointed at the map. Entry points. 3 possibilities. Sarah indicated each one. Front gate, obvious. Heavily defended. Suicide. East wall, reinforced concrete. Would require significant explosive breaching. Too loud. She moved her finger to a small marking near the south side. Or here. Drainage culvert. 28 inches in diameter. Barely large enough for a person with full kit. But it's unguarded because they assume no one can fit through it. Can we fit? Doc asked. I can, alone. Stone shook his head. That puts you inside without backup. If you're compromised, we can't reach you in time. If I'm compromised, the mission is over anyway. This works because they're not expecting a solo infiltration. They're prepared for a team assault, helicopters, explosions. The standard rescue playbook. They're not prepared for one person moving like a ghost. Mitchell spoke up. Timeline. 18-minute window between guard rotations. I enter at 0200 hours when shift change occurs. Fatigue is highest, attention is lowest. I have 18 minutes to infiltrate, locate Marcus, and reach the extraction point before the next patrol cycle. That's impossibly tight, Ethan said. It has to be. Any longer and we're exposed. Their quick reaction force response time is approximately 8 minutes once an alarm is raised. We need to be moving toward extraction before they can organize a proper response. She pulled out equipment lists, weapons, medical supplies, explosives. Primary weapons HK-416 with suppressor, sidearms Glock 19. Ethan, you'll have shaped charges for precision cutting. Doc, full trauma kit with hypothermia prevention gear. Stone, you'll be on overwatch 400 meters out. Insertion method, Stone asked. Halo jump, high altitude, low opening. Exit altitude 28,000 feet. Free fall for approximately 90 seconds. Deploy canopies at 3,500 feet. Fly to the landing zone under cover of darkness. By the time we're visible on any radar, we're already on the ground. Extraction. Once I have Marcus, we move to the coast. 15 kilometers overland. Rib waiting offshore with a SEAL support crew. They extract us to a submarine in international waters. From there, we're home. Mitchell looked at each of them. This is not a sanctioned mission. If we're captured, the United States government will disavow any knowledge of our existence. We'll be tried as spies or terrorists. No prisoner exchange, no diplomatic solution, just us and whatever they decide to do to us. If we fail, he continued, Project Phantom gets exposed. Every operator still alive becomes a target. I face court-martial. My career ends. Possibly my freedom. So we don't fail, Stone said simply. We don't fail, Sarah agreed. Mitchell stepped back from the table. I've arranged transportation, C-130. The crew thinks it's a training exercise. The submarine is USS Virginia. Captain owes me his career. He'll be at the extraction point. He looked at each of them. Beyond that, you're on your own. No air support, no backup, no rescue. You'll be operating in denied territory with no official cover. Understood, sir, Sarah said. She looked at her team, at Doc, who'd gone from skeptical to committed, at Stone, who tested her and found her worthy, at Ethan, who watched her with those haunted eyes, carrying a weight she couldn't quite identify. We launch in 12 hours, she said. Get your gear sorted, get your head sorted, rest if you can. At 0600 tomorrow, we're wheels up. She looked at each of them one final time. After that, there's no turning back. The team dispersed. Ethan left first, moving quickly toward the door. Stone and Doc followed, talking quietly about equipment configurations and contingencies. Mitchell and Sarah remained. You did well, he said quietly. They trust you. That's not easy to earn. They don't trust me yet. They trust that I know what I'm doing. Real trust comes later, after I prove I can bring them home. You will. You don't know that. I do. Mitchell moved closer. Because you're the best tactical operator I've ever trained. Because you have something to prove. Because you're not doing this for glory or recognition. You're doing it because it's right. He paused. That makes you dangerous. In the best possible way. Sarah was quiet for a moment. Then she asked the question that had been weighing on her since the interrogation room. Admiral, why did you really erase me the full truth? Mitchell's expression was pained. I told you, political pressure, the purge, protecting what I could. That's not all of it, he sighed, sat down heavily, suddenly looking every one of his 62 years. You're right, that's not all of it. He stared at his hands. When you came back from Yemen, when I saw what had happened to your team, I saw my own failure. I sent you in on questionable intelligence. I prioritized the mission over your safety. And David died because of it. Marcus was captured because of it. His voice cracked. I couldn't face that. Couldn't face you. Every time I looked at you, I saw David taking that RPG, saw Marcus being dragged away, saw my decisions coming home to roost. He looked up at her. So I erased you, not just to protect you, to protect myself, from the reminder, from the guilt, from having to look into the eyes of the one person who survived and know that I'd failed her. Silence. Heavy and profound. Sarah walked over, sat across from him. David's death wasn't your fault, Admiral. He saw the RP, he saw it would hit me, and he made a choice. That was his decision, his sacrifice. Her voice softened. Marcus ordered me to save Donovan. Those were his last words before they took him. Get him out. That's an order. He made a choice too. I'm the one who listened. I'm the one who left him. She reached out, touched his arm. We all made choices that day. Some of us died for them. Some of us have to live with them. Neither is easier. Mitchell looked at her, saw the young woman who'd lost everything and was still fighting, still standing, still refusing to break. Then help me fix it, she said. Help me bring Marcus home. Not because it'll absolve us, not because it'll make the guilt go away, but because it's the right thing to do. Because we owe him. Because no one else is coming. Mitchell stood, extended his hand. Then let's make it right. They shook. A promise. An oath. A commitment to see this through no matter the cost. Sarah left Building 7 and walked into the night. The rain had stopped. Stars were visible between the clouds. She thought about David, about Marcus, about all the people she'd lost and all the people she was about to risk. I'm coming, Marcus, she whispered to the stars. Hold on just a little longer. Outside near the barracks, Ethan Cole stood alone in the shadows. He pulled out his wallet with trembling hands. Inside was a photograph. A little girl with blonde hair and her mother's eyes. 8 years old, Ivy. His everything. He stared at the photo, his jaw tight, his shoulders tense with a weight that threatened to crush him. You have kids, Senior Chief. Stone's voice came from behind him. Ethan's hand closed over the photo quickly. Too quickly. He turned, forced his expression neutral. A daughter, Ivy. She's everything. The way he said it made Stone pause, not pride in his voice. Fear. She okay to... Yeah, the lie came out hollow. Yeah, she's fine. Stone nodded, didn't push, walked away. Ethan waited until he was alone again. Then he pulled out his phone with shaking hands. Stared at the screen, at the number he'd memorized but never saved. The number that had called him 3 months ago and destroyed his world. He didn't want to make the call. Every fiber of his being screamed at him to tell Sarah, to tell Mitchell, to ask for help. But then he looked at Ivy's photo again. Remembered the video they'd sent. Her tied to a chair, crying, calling for him. Remembered their words, do exactly what we say or she dies. Slowly, and you'll watch. His finger hovered over the screen. God forgive me, he whispered. He made the call. It's happening, he said, his voice breaking. 12 hours. They're coming for Marcus. The voice on the other end was cold, emotionless. Understood. Let them come. We'll be ready. I have a daughter. Ethan's voice cracked. You promised she'd be safe. Your daughter remains unharmed, and as long as you do what we agreed, let them walk into the compound. After that, it's out of your hands. Ethan closed his eyes, felt the weight of impossible choices crushing his chest. God forgive me. He ended the call, stood alone in the darkness, a man caught between loyalty and love, between duty and desperation. They had taken Ivy 3 months ago, sent him proof of life, told him exactly what he needed to do to keep her breathing. Now he had to live with it. 12 hours until wheels up. 12 hours until he betrayed everyone who trusted him. 12 hours until good people walked into a trap because he'd sold them out to save the one person who mattered more than honor. He thought about Ivy's smile, about her laugh, about the way she called him daddy like he was a hero. Some heroes betrayed their brothers to save their children. He'd have to live with being that kind of hero. The countdown had begun, and none of them except Ethan knew that the mission was already compromised before it had even started. Dawn broke cold and gray over the tarmac. The C-130 Hercules sat like a sleeping predator, cargo ramp down on engines, silent but ready. Sarah Kane stood at the base of the ramp, watching her team load equipment into the belly of the aircraft. Each man moved with practiced efficiency, checking and rechecking gear, following rituals they'd performed 100 times before. She'd slept for 3 hours. Dreamless sleep, the kind that came from years of training her body to rest when it could to store energy for when it mattered. She'd learned that skill in buds, refined it in combat, relied on it to stay sharp when everything around her was falling apart. Admiral Mitchell approached from the direction of the command building. He walked differently this morning, slower, like a man who knew he was taking his last steps in uniform, like a man who'd already said goodbye to everything he'd built over 40 years. He stopped beside her, didn't speak for a moment, just watched the team work, watched Stone carefully wrapping his rifle in protective cloth, watched Doc organizing medical supplies with the precision of a surgeon, watched Ethan standing apart staring at nothing, hands trembling slightly. "That one concerns me," Mitchell said quietly, nodding toward Ethan. "Me too," Sarah admitted. "He's been off since the briefing." "Do you trust him?" Sarah considered the question. Trust was a luxury in their world. Trust got you killed if you gave it to the wrong person. But doubt also got you killed, made you hesitate when hesitation was fatal. "I trust that he wants to be here," she said finally. "I trust that he believes in the mission. Whether that's enough, we'll find out." Mitchell reached into his jacket, pulled out a small box. "I want you to have this." Sarah opened it. Inside was a trident pin. Gold, not brass, heavy, the kind given to operators who'd earned it through blood and sacrifice. Mitchell's own trident worn smooth from decades of carrying it. "Admiral, I can't." "You can, you will." His voice was firm. "David should have worn this. He would have if I'd had the chance to give it to him. Now it's yours." Sarah closed the box, felt the weight of it in her hand. "We'll bring Marcus home so David can rest." "Bring everyone home, Captain, including yourself." Mitchell's voice roughened. "That's an order." She looked at him. Saw the man who'd trained her, who'd believed in her when no one else did, who was about to sacrifice everything he'd ever built for a chance to make things right. "We will, sir. I promise." Mitchell extended his hand. She took it, held it for a moment longer than necessary. Then he stepped back, came to attention, rendered a salute that carried 40 years of service and honor and regret. Sarah returned it, then turned and walked toward the aircraft, toward her team, toward whatever waited on the other side of the jump. The loadmaster gave the 5-minute warning. Sarah connected her oxygen hose, felt the pure O2 start flowing, 4 liters per minute flushing nitrogen from her bloodstream. At 28,000 feet, the air was too thin to sustain consciousness. Jump without proper oxygen saturation, and you'd pass out during freefall. Wake up dead if you woke up at all. She watched the others connect their hoses. Doc first, movements automatic from countless jumps. Stone second, checking his equipment with the same precision he used for everything. Ethan last, fumbling with the connection, hands shaking so badly that Doc had to help him. "You good, Senior Chief?" Doc asked, concern evident in his voice. "Fine." Ethan's voice was too tight. "Just cold." It wasn't cold. The cargo hold was heated. But Doc didn't push it, just gave Ethan a look that said they'd talk about it later when there was time. Sarah made a decision. After the mission, if they survived, she'd deal with whatever was eating Ethan. Right now, she needed him functional, needed all of them functional. The loadmaster returned. 1-minute warning. Red light illuminated above the jump door, casting everything in crimson. Sarah stood, moved to the door. The others formed up behind her, single file, ready to exit on her signal. "Final check," she said, her voice cutting through the engine noise. "Sound off, Doc ready?" "Stone ready." Silence from Ethan. "Cole ready." The word came out strangled, forced. Sarah turned to face him, met his eyes directly. "Senior Chief, whatever's in your head right now, leave it on this aircraft. When that door opens, I need you present. I need you focused. Can you do that?" Ethan held her gaze. For a moment, she saw something in his eyes. Guilt, fear, desperation. Something that looked almost like an apology. Then it was gone, buried behind the mask every operator learned to wear. "Yes, ma'am, I'm good." She didn't believe him, but she nodded anyway. The loadmaster gripped the door handle. 30 seconds. Sarah turned back to face the void. Her hand found the ripcord handle, muscle memory confirming its position. She thought about Marcus. 5 years and 8 months in a cell. 5 years and 8 months of torture, of holding on, of refusing to break, waiting for someone to come. 15 seconds. The door opened. The world exploded with sound and wind. The slipstream tore at her, trying to rip her out before she was ready. The temperature plummeted to 40 below zero, the kind of cold that didn't just chill. It burned. She looked out into darkness. 28,000 feet below the earth was invisible. Just blackness and stars in the thin line of horizon where the two met. 10 seconds. She was about to fall into nothing. About to trust physics and fabric and training to keep her alive. 5 seconds. She thought about David, about the way he'd stepped in front of that RPG without hesitation, about the last words he'd ever spoken. Take care of them, Ra. Promise me. I promise. Green light. Go, go, go! Sarah stepped into nothing. The wind hit her like a physical thing, tore the breath from her lungs, spun her for half a second before training it took over and she arched, stabilizing. Arms out, legs spread, falling at terminal velocity toward an earth she couldn't see. 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. Behind her, 3 more bodies tumbled into the void. She couldn't see them yet, couldn't hear anything but wind, but she knew they were there. The weight of responsibility settling onto her shoulders like a physical burden. 15 seconds into the fall, Doc appeared on her left, tracking through the darkness. Then Stone on her right. Then Ethan below and behind. 4 operators falling together, a formation held by skill and faith, and the shared understanding that separation meant death. The altimeter on her wrist glowed green. 26,000 feet. 24,000. 22,000. Falling at 120 miles per hour, the earth rushing up to meet them, invisible and inevitable. Sarah watched the numbers tick down. Watched the GPS track their position. Watched the wind drift them exactly as she'd calculated. She'd done the math right. Now she had to hope physics agreed. 18,000 feet. 16,000. 14,000. The darkness below began to take shape. Terrain features emerging from shadow. Mountains, valleys, the thin ribbon of a road cutting through wilderness. 10,000 feet. 8,000. 6,000. Sarah's hand moved to her ripcord. Not yet. Wait for the exact altitude. Deploy too high and you're visible too long. Deploy too low and you don't have time to fix malfunctions. 4,000 feet, 3,500. Now she pulled. The pilot chute deployed, dragging the main canopy out of her pack. She felt the tug, the opening shock, the sudden deceleration from terminal velocity to 15 miles per hour. Above her, the MC-6 canopy blossomed. Black fabric against black sky. Nearly invisible. She grabbed the toggles, checked for malfunctions. All good. Full flight. Controllable. Around her, 3 more canopies deployed. Doc, Stone, Ethan. All good. All flying. All tracking toward the landing zone. The ground rose to meet them. Sarah flew the canopy with practiced precision, spiraling down, trading altitude for position. 200 feet, 150. She flared, converting forwarded speed into lift. Touchdown. Soft. Feet, knees roll. Combat landing. Up immediately, hand on rifle, scanning for threats. Nothing. Clear. Doc landed 10 meters to her left. Then Stone. Then Ethan. Rally point, Sarah said quietly into her radio. 30 seconds. Weapons hot. They collapsed their canopies, buried them in the rocky soil, evidence of their insertion disappearing into the earth. Sarah checked her GPS. 8 kilometers to the compound. 2 hours to cover the distance. She looked at her team, made eye contact with each. We're on the ground. Phase 1 complete. From here, we move silent. No comms unless absolutely necessary. Hand signals only. They nodded. Cole, you're on point. Stone, rear security. Doc, stay with me. Ethan moved out. The others followed. They ghosted through the terrain like smoke night vision, turning darkness into shades of green. Each step placed carefully, each movement measured. Sound, discipline, absolute. An hour into the movement, Ethan raised his fist. Freeze. Sarah dropped to a knee, rifle up, scanned the area ahead. 4 figures moving along a ridge 200 meters to their east. Patrol, armed, professional. The team melted into the rocks, becoming part of the landscape. Sarah controlled her breathing. Watched the patrol pass, watched them disappear over the ridge. She waited 10 minutes, making sure they were truly gone. Then she signaled. Move. They continued. Another hour of careful movement through hostile territory. Every sense heightened, every nerve on edge. The compound appeared ahead, exactly where the satellite imagery said it would be. Guard towers, perimeter fence, roving patrols, everything matching the intelligence. Too perfect, too exact. The thought nagged at Sarah. Intelligence was never this accurate. Never this clean. There were always variations, always changes, always something different from what the photos showed. But this was identical, down to the placement of the guards, down to the timing of the patrols. She pushed the doubt aside. They were committed now. Overwatch positions, she whispered into her radio. Stone North Ridge, 400 meters. You have eyes on both guard towers. Dock Cole, South Perimeter, 200 meters. Cover my extraction route. Copy, Stone responded. Copy, Doc said. Silence from Ethan. Cole, confirm. Copy. His voice was strange, hollow. Sarah checked her watch. 15 minutes until the shift change. 15 minutes until the 18-minute window opened. She stripped down to essential gear. Rifle across her back, sidearm on her hip, knife, radio, minimal load, maximum mobility. Stone status. In position, I have eyes on the compound. 2 guards in the north tower, 2 in the south. Roving patrol just entered the west side. They're on a 12-minute circuit. Dock status. In position, south perimeter looks clear. I count 6 guards visible from my angle. Cole. Silence. Cole, respond. In position. Still that hollow voice. Still that wrongness she couldn't identify. Sarah pushed it aside. Focus. The mission was everything. 1 minute, 58 seconds. 1 minute, 2 minutes. She moved to the drainage culvert, 28 inches in diameter, barely large enough for her to fit through. She stared into the darkness beyond. 200 hours exactly. Time to bring him home. She entered. The culvert was claustrophobic. Dark. Water dripping from above. The smell of concrete and rust and stagnant water. She low-crawled through the tunnel, pulling herself forward with her elbows rifle dragging beneath her. Every sound amplified in the enclosed space. 30 meters of absolute darkness. 30 meters where one wrong sound could alert the guards. 30 meters where backup couldn't reach her. She counted. 47 meters. 118 breaths. Control the fear. Use it. Don't let it use you. She emerged in a maintenance area beneath the main compound, exactly where intelligence said she'd find it. Too accurate. Too clean. The warning screamed in her head again louder now. But she pushed forward. She moved through the basement level past machinery and storage rooms following the mental map she'd memorized. Cell blocks were 1 level up. She found the stairs moved up slowly, knife in hand. Top of the stairs. Long corridor. Cell doors every 10 feet. She moved down the corridor, checking each cell through the small windows. Empty. Empty. 2 prisoners she didn't recognize. Then the last cell on the right. She looked through the window. Marcus Grant sat on the concrete floor back against the wall. He was thin, emaciated. His face showed the marks of years of abuse. His hands were scarred from restraints. But his eyes were still alive, still sharp, still unbroken. He looked up, saw her face in the window. His eyes widened. Wraith. His voice was a croak damaged from years of screaming and silence. You came. Always, Sarah whispered. She worked the lock. 30 seconds of careful manipulation. The door swung open. She knelt beside him, checked his condition. He was weak, malnourished, but alive. Can you walk? He tried to stand. Made it halfway up before his legs gave out. 5 years and 8 months of captivity had stolen his strength. I'll carry you if I have to, Sarah said. But then Marcus grabbed her arm. His grip was surprisingly strong. His eyes were wild with fear. Wraith, stop. This is a trap. Her blood went cold. What? They knew someone would come. They'd been planning for it. The compound, the security, the intelligence you received. It's all bait. Sarah's mind raced. The perfect intel. The convenient culvert. Ethan's strange behavior. Oh, God. How do you know? They told me. Showed me the plan. They wanted me to know that whoever came for me would die. Wanted me to live with that. He pulled her closer. You have to get out. Now, before they spring the trap. Sarah keyed her radio. Hawkeye demo mission is compromised. I repeat, mission is compromised. We're walking into an ambush. Abort. Get to the extraction point. Static. Then Ethan's voice came through. Broken. Destroyed. I can't abort, Wraith. I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. Sarah's heart stopped. Cole, what did you do? Silence. Then barely a whisper. They have my daughter. The corridor lights blazed bright. Alarms screamed. The sound of boots pounding on concrete echoed from both ends of the hallway. They took Ivy 3 months ago, Ethan continued, his voice cracking. Showed me videos. Told me exactly what they'd do to her if I didn't cooperate. I didn't have a choice. I didn't have a choice. Sarah grabbed Marcus, hauled him to his feet. Her mind was racing, calculating, adapting. Years of training taking over, pushing emotion aside, focusing on survival. Stone Doc, talk to me. Stone's voice cut through calm despite the chaos. I see movement, a lot of movement. They're converging on the main building. Wraith, they knew exactly where you'd be. Nud Doc came through next. We're compromised. QRF is mobilizing from the east. I count 30 plus hostiles. Cole sold us out, Sarah said. They have his daughter. Silence on the radio. Then Stone's voice, cold as ice. Copy. What are your orders? Sarah looked at Marcus, at the man she'd spent 5 years and 8 months trying to find, at the promise she'd made to bring him home. We fight our way out. She keyed the radio again. Stone, I need a distraction. Big one. Give me chaos. On it. Through the walls, she heard the first shot. Stone's rifle. The distinctive crack of a .338 Lapouche round traveling at supersonic velocity. Then another. Then another. Streams outside. Confusion. The sound of a professional sniper tearing through their carefully laid trap. Doc Cole, I'm coming out the south entrance. Be ready for extraction. Copy, Doc responded. Silence from Ethan. Sarah pulled Marcus toward the stairs. He tried to help, tried to move on his own, but 5 years and 8 months had stolen everything. His legs wouldn't hold him. His body had been broken too many times to remember how to be whole. Lean on me, she said. We're getting out of here. Wraith, leave me. Save yourself. Not happening, not today, not ever. She half-carried, half-dragged him down the stairs into the basement toward the culvert. But the culvert was blocked now. Guards pouring in from both sides. She changed direction, headed for the south entrance, the one Doc was supposed to be covering. She burst through the door, Marcus on her shoulder, rifle in her free hand, 3 guards directly ahead. She fired without hesitation. 3 rounds. 3 bodies dropped. More guards coming from the left. She swung Marcus behind a concrete barrier, laid down suppressive fire, brass casings flying, magazine emptying, reload. 2 seconds. Back in the fight. Doc, where are you, Bio? 50 meters south. I'm moving to you. Explosions rocked the compound. Ethan. Despite everything, despite the betrayal, he was still fighting, still trying to give them a chance. Doc appeared firing as he moved, professional, controlled. Exactly the operator she'd hoped he was. Wraith, we need to move now. Marcus can't run. Then we carry him together. They lifted Marcus between them, started moving toward the perimeter. Stone's voice came through the radio. I've got 20 hostiles down, but they're adapting, finding cover. I can't hold them forever. Just give us 5 minutes, Sarah said. Not negotiable, Captain. Sarah didn't argue. There wasn't time. They reached the perimeter fence. Ethan was there. His face was a mask of anguish. Blood on his hands, not his own. I rigged the charges, he said. I can blow the fence. Sarah looked at him, at the man who'd betrayed them, at the father who'd tried to save his daughter, at the operator who was trying to make it right. Do it. Ethan triggered the detonator. The fence section exploded outward in a perfect line of shaped charges, minimal overpressure, maximum cut efficiency, professional work even in betrayal. They ran through the gap into the darkness beyond, into the wilderness that would either save them or kill them. Behind them, the compound erupted with activity, vehicles starting, dogs barking, the hunt beginning. Stone, we're clear of the perimeter. Get out now. Copy. Moving. They pushed into the forest. Marcus between Sarah and Doc, Ethan bringing up the rear, every step taking them farther from the trap, closer to survival. But the sounds of pursuit were growing, getting closer, and they still had 15 kilometers to go. Sarah looked at Marcus, at his gray face, his labored breathing, the way his body was failing even as his spirit refused to break. Stay with me, Marcus. I'm trying. His voice was barely audible. I've been waiting 5 years and 8 months for this. I'm not dying now. Damn right you're not. She pushed forward into the darkness, into the unknown, into whatever hell was waiting for them next, because she'd made a promise. And Sarah Kane never broke her promises. They ran through darkness with death at their heels. Marcus was fading fast, his weight growing heavier with each step as his body surrendered to 5 years and 8 months of abuse. Sarah felt his grip weakening on her shoulder, felt the tremors running through his frame. Stay with me, Marcus. Don't you dare quit. Trying. His voice was barely audible. Legs won't listen. Doc shifted his grip, taking more of Marcus's weight. His core temp is dropping. Hypothermia is setting in. We need to stop and warm him up or we're going to lose him. We can't stop. They're right behind us. Stone's voice crackled through the radio. Wraith, I count 12 hostiles, 300 meters in closing. They've got dogs. Dogs. That changed everything. You couldn't hide from dogs. Couldn't mask your scent in freezing temperatures. The animals would track them straight to their position, no matter how carefully they moved. How long until they reach us? 8 minutes, maybe less. Sarah's mind raced through options. None of them good. All of them ending in blood. Cole. He was there moving beside them, his face a mask of guilt and determination. The father who'd betrayed them, trying desperately to earn back what he'd thrown away. I need you to slow them down. How? The claymores. Set them along our back trail, overlapping fields of fire. Make them pay for every meter. Ethan nodded, didn't hesitate, didn't argue. Just started pulling mines from his pack. Give me 10 minutes. Then catch up. And Cole. Sarah met his eyes, saw the acceptance there, the understanding that redemption sometimes cost everything. Run fast. If I can't catch up, Sarah cut him off. 10 minutes, Cole. Then you run. He almost smiled. Almost. Then he disappeared into the darkness behind them. They continued forward. Doc beside Sarah. Marcus between them. 3 minutes later, they reached a river. Chest deep, freezing, the kind of cold that stopped hearts. We have to cross, Sarah said. It'll break the scent trail. Buy us time. Doc looked at Marcus, at his gray skin, his blue lips, his shaking body. He won't survive immersion. His core temp is already critical. He won't survive if they catch us either. Marcus lifted his head. His eyes were glassy but determined. Do it. I didn't wait 5 years and 8 months to die on a riverbank. Sarah went first, testing the current, strong but manageable. The cold hit her like a physical blow, every nerve screaming, every muscle seizing. She pushed through, reached the far bank, established security. Bring him across. Doc entered the water with Marcus. The cold hit Marcus and he gasped, his body convulsing. Doc held him tight, fighting the current, fighting hypothermia, fighting time itself. They made it across. Barely. Marcus collapsed on the bank, shaking uncontrollably. His lips were blue, his breathing shallow. Doc, work on him. I'll cover. Doc stripped Marcus's wet clothes, wrapped him in a thermal blanket, activated chemical heat packs, placed them at his core, his armpits, his groin, anywhere that would warm blood before it circulated to vital organs. Come on, Marcus. Stay with me. Stay with me. Behind them, across the river, explosions erupted. Ethan's claymores. The screams that followed were inhuman, cut short. Then gunfire. Sustained. Professional. Ethan was still fighting. Stone's voice came through. Hostiles at the river. Cole engaged. He's holding them, but he's taking fire. How many did the claymores get? Hard to count. At least 8 down. But there's more coming. A lot more. Sarah looked at Marcus, at Doc, working desperately to keep him alive at the river between them and Ethan. Marcus, can you move? Give me a minute. We don't have a minute. He forced himself up, grabbed her arm, used her as a crutch. Then give me 30 seconds. They started moving again, slower now. Marcus was trying, he was trying, but his body was betraying him with every step. More gunfire behind them, then a sound that made Sarah's blood freeze. Ethan on the radio, his voice tight with pain. Wraith, I'm hit. How bad? Bad enough. They're flanking my position. I can't hold. Sarah stopped, turned back toward the river. Doc grabbed her arm. Don't. We need you here. I'm not leaving him. He sold us out. He's the reason we're in this mess. He's trying to make it right. That counts for something. Wraith, I said I'm not leaving him. She handed Marcus to Doc, turned back toward the river. Keep moving. I'll catch up. Sarah, she was already running. She hit the river at full speed. The cold was worse the second time. Her muscles cramped, her lungs seized. But she kept moving, kept fighting, kept pushing toward the sound of gunfire. She found Ethan behind a fallen log. His leg was shattered below the knee. Blood everywhere. He was still firing, still fighting, propping himself up with one arm while the other worked the trigger. Wraith, what the hell are you doing here? Saving your sorry ass. She grabbed him, started dragging him toward the river. Can you shoot? I can shoot until I'm dead. Then shoot. She pulled him through the water. He screamed when the cold hit his wound, kept screaming as she dragged him across. But his rifle never stopped firing, never stopped sending rounds downrange. They made it to the far bank. Sarah hauled Ethan up, threw him over her shoulder in a fireman's carry. The weight was immense, the pain in her back immediate. She didn't care. Doc, where are you? 200 meters north. Marcus is stabilizing. Barely. Coming to you. She ran, Ethan on her back, his blood soaking through her jacket, his breathing getting weaker with every step. Put me down, he gasped. I'm slowing you down. Shut up. Wraith, leave me. It's what I deserve. What you deserve is a court-martial and 20 years in Leavenworth. But you're not getting off that easy. You're going to live. You're going to face what you did, and you're going to see Ivy again. Ethan was quiet for a moment, then barely a whisper. Why? Because that's what we do. We don't leave people behind, not enemies, not traitors, not fathers who made impossible choices. She found Doc and Marcus in a small depression. Marcus was conscious, wrapped in thermal blankets, his color slightly better. Doc was already prepping his medical kit. Sarah dropped Ethan beside them. Fix him. Doc looked at Ethan, at the shattered leg, at the blood loss, at the man who'd betrayed them all. He sold us out, and then he saved us. Now fix him. Doc hesitated for exactly 1 second. Then his training took over. He went to work. Tourniquet first high and tight above the wound. Ethan screamed through gritted teeth. Femoral's intact, Doc said, but the tibia is gone, shattered by the round. He's not walking out of here. Then we carry him. Wraith, we can't carry 2 people 15 kilometers. Watch me, Stone's voice cut through. Wraith, I've got visual on you, but we've got a problem. What? QRF is regrouping. They're not pursuing anymore. They're setting up a blocking position between us and the coast. They're going to let us run right into them. Sarah closed her eyes, calculated distances, evaluated options. How many? I count 20, maybe more. Heavy weapons. They've got the high ground. Can you take them? Some of them. Not all. Not before they cut you to pieces. Marcus grabbed Sarah's arm. His grip was surprisingly strong. There's another way. What? When they moved me between facilities, they used a vehicle depot about 3 kilometers east of here. If it's still operational, there might be transport. That's farther from the coast. But it gets us wheels. We can't outrun them on foot. Not carrying wounded, but if we can get a vehicle, we can punch through the blocking position. Sarah looked at her team, at Doc working on Ethan, at Stone somewhere in the darkness providing overwatch, at Marcus barely alive but still fighting. Doc, how long until Cole can be moved? 5 minutes. I need to stabilize the wound and get fluids in him. You've got 3. Wraith, 3 minutes, Doc, then we move. Stone's voice. New objective, vehicle depot 3 kilometers east. We're going mobile. Copy, I'll reposition to cover your movement. Sarah knelt beside Ethan. His face was gray, his breathing shallow, but his eyes were clear. You hear that we're getting out of here? I heard. His voice was weak but steady. Wraith, my daughter, her name is Ivy. She's 8 years old, blonde hair, her mother's eyes, the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. You'll see her again. Maybe, maybe not. He grabbed her hand. But if I don't, promise me something. What? Don't let her hate me. Tell her I was a good man who made a bad choice. Tell her I loved her more than honor. More than duty, more than my own life. Sarah squeezed his hand. I'll tell her you're a hero who came back from the dead to save his brothers. Because that's what you're going to do. You're going to live, Cole. Live and tell her yourself. Doc finished his work. He's stable for now, but he needs surgery within 6 hours or he loses the leg. Maybe his life. Then we better move fast. They lifted Ethan between Sarah and Doc. Marcus managed to walk on his own, now leaning heavily on Stone, who had rejoined them. They moved east toward the depot, toward their only chance. 3 kilometers had never felt so far. Halfway there, Stone stopped, held up his fist. Contact, patrol, 4 hostiles, 50 meters ahead. Sarah lowered Ethan to the ground, drew her sidearm. I'll handle it. Noise discipline. We can't afford a firefight this close to the depot. She moved forward, silent, deadly, the ghost they'd trained her to be. The patrol never saw her coming. First man down with a knife across the throat, silent. Second man turned at the sound of his partner falling. Sarah's blade found his heart before he could raise his weapon. Third man opened his mouth to shout. Her hand clamped over it, knife through his kidney. He died gasping. Fourth man ran, made it 3 steps before Sarah's thrown knife caught him between the shoulder blades. She cleaned her blade on the last man's uniform, retrieved her throwing knife, signaled the team forward. Clear. They reached the depot 10 minutes later. Marcus was right. 3 vehicles. 2 trucks and a Jeep, all military and all armored. Doc checked the trucks, stone perimeter security. Marcus, can you hotwire? Marcus actually laughed, a broken, painful sound. I was boosting cars before I was a SEAL. Old habit. He limped to the nearest truck. Within 30 seconds, the engine roared to life. Everybody in. Now. They loaded Ethan into the back. Marcus took the passenger seat. Doc climbed in with Ethan to monitor his vitals. Stone took position at the mounted gun on the truck bed. Sarah got behind the wheel. Coast is 12 kilometers west. Blocking position is between us and the water. We're going straight through. Straight through 20 hostiles with heavy weapons, Doc asked. You got a better idea. Silence. That's what I thought. Stone, anything moves, you kill it. With pleasure. Cheryl floored the accelerator. The truck surged forward, crashing through the depot gate, roaring toward the coast, toward salvation or death, toward whatever waited for them in the darkness ahead. The truck hammered across the terrain like a battering ram suspension, screaming with every rock and rut. Sarah gripped the wheel with both hands, knuckles, white eyes locked on the darkness ahead. The headlights were off. She was driving by night vision alone, the world rendered in shades of green and shadow. Behind her, Stone braced himself against the mounted gun, scanning for targets. In the truck bed, Doc worked over Ethan, trying to keep him stable while the vehicle bucked and lurched beneath them. Marcus sat in the passenger seat, one hand braced against the dashboard, the other clutching the oh-shit handle, his face a mask of concentration and pain. Blocking position 2 kilometers ahead, Stone's voice came through her earpiece, steady despite the chaos. I count at least 20 hostiles, maybe more. They've got ARP, heavy machine guns. They're dug in and waiting. Sarah did the math. 20 hostiles with prepared positions and heavy weapons against 1 truck and with 4 operators, 2 of them wounded. The numbers weren't good. They'd never been good. But numbers were just numbers. Victory went to whoever wanted it more, whoever was willing to pay the higher price. Marcus, when we hit that position, I need you to navigate. Call out threats, left, right, distance. Copy. Doc, keep Cole alive. Working on it. Stone, you're our hammer. When I say shoot, you empty that gun. Don't stop until we're clear or you're out of ammunition. Understood. Sarah pressed the accelerator harder. 60 miles per hour now. 70. The truck wasn't built for this speed on this terrain, but she didn't care. Speed was armor. Speed was surprise. Speed was the difference between making it through and dying in a crossfire. 1 kilometer, Stone called out. Sarah could see them now. Muzzle flashes in the darkness. Tracer rounds reaching out toward them like fingers of fire. The distinctive sound of heavy machine guns opening up that deep rhythmic bark that meant someone was about to die. Rounds pinged off the armored hull. The windshield spiderwebbed but held. Bullet-resistant glass doing its job, turning lethal projectiles into spiderweb cracks and divots. RPG 3 o'clock, Marcus shouted. Sarah saw it. A man kneeling with a launcher on his shoulder. The rocket streaked toward them, leaving a trail of fire in the darkness. She cut the wheel hard left. The truck lurched. The RPG missed by meters, close enough that Sarah felt the heat wash over her through the broken window. The explosion lit up the night behind them, throwing dirt and rock into the air. Stone that launcher, take it out! The mounted gun roared to life. The sound was overwhelming, the continuous thunder that drowned out everything else. Tracers cut through the darkness like laser beams. Sarah saw the man with the launcher jerk and fall, saw his weapon tumble away. But there were more. So many more. Another RPG launched. This one from the left. Sarah saw it coming, jerked the wheel right. The rocket passed so close she could have reached out and touched it. It detonated against a rock formation, the shrapnel pinging off the truck's armor. Straight ahead, Marcus yelled. 3 o'clock machine gun nest. Stone swung the mounted gun, found the target, held the trigger down. The nest erupted in sparks and smoke. The enemy gun went silent. They were in the middle of it now. The killing zone. Enemies on both sides. Muzzle flashes everywhere. Rounds coming from every direction. Sarah didn't slow down. Couldn't slow down. Stopping meant dying. 9 o'clock technical, Marcus called out. Sarah saw it. A pickup truck with a heavy machine gun mounted in the bed. The gun was tracking toward them, the barrel swinging around to bear. She didn't wait for it to fire. She cut the wheel hard, aimed the truck directly at it. The driver of the technical saw what she was doing, tried to reverse, tried to get clear. Too late. Sarah hit them at 70 miles per hour. The impact was tremendous. The technical folded like paper, the driver's side crumpling inward. Sarah felt the truck shudder, but keep moving. She fought the wheel, kept them on course. kept them pushing forward through the chaos. RPG, RPG, dead ahead, Sarah saw him, a man standing in their path launcher already on his shoulder. She was too close to dodge, too close to do anything but pray the shot missed. The man fired. Time seemed to slow. Sarah saw the rocket leave the tube, saw it streak toward them with terrible inevitability. This was it. This was how they died. Stone's gun barked once, twice, three times. The man with the launcher jerked and fell. The rocket went wild, spiraling off into the darkness, detonating harmlessly 100 meters away. Good shooting, Sarah said, her voice surprisingly calm. Just doing my job, Captain. They punched through the far side of the blocking position, left case and carnage in their wake. Sarah checked the mirror, saw fires burning, saw bodies on the ground, saw the enemy regrouping, but too slowly, too late. Coast is 3 kilometers. Beach should be directly ahead. Sarah pushed the truck even harder. 80 miles per hour now. The engine was screaming. The suspension was making sounds that suggested it might fail at any moment. But they were almost there. Almost home. The terrain changed. Sand dunes appeared, beach grass, the smell of salt water cutting through the cordite and blood and diesel. The ocean emerged from the darkness like salvation itself. Sarah skidded the truck to a stop on the sand, killed the engine. Everybody out. Move, move, move. They piled out, Doc and Sarah carrying Ethan between them, Stone helping Marcus, both men moving as fast as their battered bodies would allow. Running for the water, running for the rib boat that was already cutting through the waves toward them. Navy crew at the helm, professional extraction, the promise of survival. Behind them, vehicles appeared. Pursuit catching up. The enemy wasn't done yet. Stone cover fire. Stone dropped to one knee, brought his rifle up. The weapon barked once, twice, 3 times. Each shot precise. Each shot finding a target. The late pursuit vehicle swerved, crashed, rolled. Move, I'm right behind you. They hit the water. The cold was shocking after the heat of combat, but Sarah barely felt it. She was focused on one thing, only getting her people to that boat, getting them to safety. The rib crew was already reaching out, strong hands pulling them aboard. Marcus first hauled up and over the gunwale. Ethan next, Doc climbing up with him to keep working. Sarah pulled herself up, turned back. Stone was still on the beach, still firing, covering their retreat. Stone, come on. He fired 3 more times, methodical, professional, making each shot count. Then he turned and ran. A round caught him in the shoulder. He stumbled but kept running. Another round hit his thigh. He fell. Sarah was already moving, back into the water, back toward her fallen man. She'd said no one left behind, and she meant it. Every word. Rounds kicked up water around her. The sound of death missing by inches. The rib crew opened fire, covering her, buying seconds with bullets. She reached Stone, grabbed him, started dragging him toward the boat. He was still conscious, still trying to help, using his good leg to push, but the wounds were bad. Blood in the water. Too much blood. Stay with me, Stone. Don't you dare quit on me now. Not quitting, Captain, just resting my eyes. You can rest when you're dead. Keep them open. The rib crew was there, pulling them both aboard, hands everywhere, lifting, dragging, getting them clear of the kill zone. The pilot slammed the throttles forward. The boat surged away from the beach, cutting through the waves at 40 knots. An RPG launched from the shore. Sarah saw it coming, saw the arc of fire tracking toward them. The pilot saw it too, cut the wheel hard. The boat heeled over, nearly capsizing. The RPG passed overhead, missing by 20 meters, and detonated in a fountain of spray. Then they were out of range, moving too fast, too far. The enemy fire fell away behind them, impotent and frustrated. Sarah collapsed in the bottom of the boat. Every muscle was screaming. Every nerve was exhausted. She looked at her team. Stone bleeding but conscious, Doc already working on him. Ethan pale but breathing, his leg a ruin, but his heart still beating. Marcus beside her, thin and broken but alive. 5 years and 8 months she'd searched. 5 years and 8 months she'd planned. 5 years and 8 months she'd refused to give up. We did it, Marcus whispered. You actually did it. We did it, Sarah corrected. All of us. Marcus reached out, took her hand. David would be proud. The words hit her like a physical blow. Her brother's face flashed through her mind. His sacrifice. His last words. I know, she said quietly. I know he would. The submarine appeared ahead. USS Virginia, dark shape against darker water. Safety, survival, home. The hatch was already open, sailors reaching down to help them aboard. One by one they descended into the vessel. into safety, into survival, into whatever came next. Marcus first carried down on a stretcher, Ethan next dock staying with him every step. Stone third refusing help but accepting it when his legs wouldn't hold him. Sarah last taking one final look at the sky at the stars at the horizon, where the enemy's shore had already disappeared into darkness. The hatch closed behind them with a heavy metallic thud. The submarine dove. The ocean swallowed them and they were gone. 72 hours later, the submarine surfaced in American waters. Sarah stood on the deck watching the coastline emerge through morning fog. Behind her, the team was being prepped for medical evacuation. Helicopters inbound. Hospital ship waiting. The machinery of the United States military swinging into action to take care of its own, even the ones who officially didn't exist. She'd visited each of them in the medical bay during the transit, seen their conditions, heard their prognosis. Marcus would live. The doctor said he'd need months of rehabilitation, years of therapy, but he would live. His body was broken, but his spirit remained intact. 5 years and 8 months of torture hadn't destroyed what made him who he was. He'd held on, refused to break, waited for someone to come, and someone had. Stone would keep his arm. The bullet had missed the artery by millimeters. The leg wound was clean, would heal with time and physical therapy. He joked about it in the medical bay, said he'd earned another scar to show his grandchildren. Lost my chance at 93 confirmed kills, he'd said with a wry smile, but worth every second. Ethan was a different story. They'd saved his leg barely, but the surgeon said he'd never operate again. Never run, never be the man he was before. The physical damage was extensive, but it was the emotional damage that concerned Sarah more. The weight of what he'd done, the betrayal, the impossible choice between duty and family. She'd visited him last, found him awake, staring at the ceiling of the medical bay, his face a mask of guilt and exhaustion. They found Ivy, she'd told him, watching his face carefully. Admiral Mitchell made some calls. CIA tracked down the people who took her. She's safe, scared but safe. They're bringing her to the Naval Hospital. She'll be there when you arrive. Ethan had closed his eyes, tears streaming down his face. The first tears she'd seen from him since the mission began. Is she okay? Did they hurt her? Some bruises? Nightmares? But she's alive, Ethan. She's alive because you kept her alive. Because you did what you had to do. I betrayed you, betrayed everyone. Yes, you did. Sarah hadn't softened the truth. And then you fought to make it right. You took 2 bullets keeping us alive. You laid those claymores knowing you might not make it back. You're going to spend the rest of your life carrying what you did, but you're going to carry it with your daughter beside you. Ethan had grabbed her hand, his grip weak but desperate. Why didn't you leave me at the river? You should have left me. Because that's not who we are. We don't leave people behind. Not the ones who deserve saving, and not the ones who don't. That's the difference between us and them. That's what makes us worth fighting for. Ethan had been silent for a long moment, then quietly, I don't deserve your mercy. Probably not, but mercy isn't about deserving. It's about choosing to be better than our worst moments. You get to choose now, Ethan. Choose who you're going to be for Ivy. Choose to be the father she believes you are. Now standing on the deck watching the helicopter approach, Sarah felt the weight of everything settling onto her shoulders. The mission was over, but the aftermath was just beginning. Admiral Mitchell was waiting on the flight deck when the helicopter landed at the Naval Hospital. His uniform was gone. He wore civilian clothes now. Khakis and a button-down shirt. No ribbons, no rank. No outward sign of the 40 years he'd given to the Navy. He looked smaller somehow. Older, like a man who'd been carrying a weight for so long that removing it left him diminished rather than freed. Sarah walked toward him, her boots loud on the tarmac. Around them, medical teams rushed the wounded inside. Organized chaos, professional care. The best the military had to offer for the men who'd given everything. Mitchell watched them go. His face was unreadable. Then he turned to Sarah. Walk with me. They moved away from the chaos toward the edge of the flight deck where the ocean stretched out to the horizon and the world felt vast and empty. The mission is being classified at the highest level, Mitchell said. Officially, it never happened. Marcus was recovered through diplomatic channels. The facility where he was held suffered an unfortunate fire. No connection to any American military operation. And the team, Stone and Doc, are getting commendations. Classified commendations that will never appear in any official record, but commendations nonetheless. Their records will show a training exercise. Nothing more. What about Ethan? Mitchell was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was heavy. What he did, the betrayal, that's court-martial territory. 20 years in Leavenworth, maybe more. He saved our lives after he nearly got us killed. I know. That's why I'm giving you a choice. Sarah stopped walking, turned to face him. What choice? Both of you. Ethan can face military justice or he can disappear, medical discharge. Honorable, his record stays clean. He goes home to his daughter and never speaks of this again. What's the catch? The catch is that he lives with what he did forever. No punishment, no prison, no external consequence. Just the knowledge of what he almost cost us every day for the rest of his life. Sarah thought about it, about justice versus mercy, about punishment versus redemption, about a father who'd made an impossible choice and then fought to make it right. Let him go home, let him raise his daughter, let him spend every day trying to earn back what he threw away. She paused. That's punishment enough. Mitchell nodded slowly. I thought you'd say that. They walked in silence for a moment. Then Mitchell spoke again, his voice different now, rougher, more vulnerable. There's something else. The Pentagon wants to reinstate you. Full honors, official recognition, put you in front of Congress, give speeches, make you the face of women in special operations. Sarah actually laughed, a short, bitter sound. No. I told them you'd say that too. I'm more effective as a ghost. Official operators get recognition. Ghosts get results. That's exactly what you said before I erased you the first time. Still true. Mitchell stopped, faced her directly. Then what do you want? What can I give you that actually matters? Sarah thought about it. About David. About Marcus. About all the people she'd lost and all the people she'd saved. About the weight she'd carried for 5 years and 8 months and would carry for the rest of her life. I want to keep doing what I do. No recognition. No records. Just the mission. There are more people out there like Marcus. More prisoners. More people who need someone to come for them. I know. That's why I can't stop. Mitchell reached into his jacket, pulled out a small box. Then take this at least. Sarah opened it. Inside was a gold trident pin. Real gold. Heavy. The kind given to operators who'd earned it through blood and sacrifice. Mitchell's own trident, the one he'd worn for 40 years. No records, Mitchell said quietly. No official recognition. But this says what paper never could. You earned it 9 years ago. You've earned it every day since. And you damn sure earned it in the last 72 hours. Sarah took the pin, felt its weight, felt everything it represented. Thank you, Admiral. Thank you, Captain, for reminding me what honor means, for showing me that sometimes the right thing and the legal thing aren't the same, for bringing our people home. He saluted. She returned it, a final acknowledgement between mentor and protege, between the old guard and the new, between the man who'd trained her and the woman who'd surpassed him. What happens to you now, she asked. Court-martial. Mitchell's expression shifted, something like acceptance crossing his face. Reduced rank, forced retirement, effective immediately, 40 years of service, and I'm going out under a cloud. I'm sorry. Don't be. I knew the cost when I agreed to help you. I'd do it again without hesitation. Why? Mitchell was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough with emotion. Because I sent your brother to his death. Because I made choices that cost good people their lives. Because for 5 years and 8 months, I've been carrying the guilt of what happened in Yemen. He paused. Helping Marcus, it doesn't try to erase that guilt. Nothing ever will. But it reminds me that I can still do good. That the man I was, the man David believed in, he's still in here somewhere. Sarah reached out, touched his arm. David didn't die because of your choices, Admiral. He died because he chose to save me. That was his decision. His sacrifice. You honored it by helping me save Marcus. That matters. That counts. Mitchell nodded slowly, the weight on his shoulders seeming to lift just slightly. Go see Marcus. Tell him yourself. He deserves to know that his sacrifice, his 5 years and 8 months of hell, they meant something. They changed something. I will. What about you? Where does the ghost go now? Sarah looked toward the horizon, toward whatever waited beyond it. Wherever I'm needed, there are more people out there, more prisoners, more brothers and sisters waiting for someone to come for them. I'll find them. Alone. If I have to, but I've learned something in the last 72 hours. I don't have to do this alone. There are good people out there, people willing to fight for what's right even when it costs them everything. I just have to find them. Mitchell extended his hand one final time. Good luck, Captain. Stay safe. Safety's not really part of the job description. He almost smiled. No, I suppose it isn't. She shook his hand, then turned and walked away. Walked toward the hospital where Marcus was waiting. Walked toward whatever came next. 6 months later, Naval Amphibious Base, Coronado, California. Bud's training compound. Hell Week was in progress. Day 4, surf torture. The evolution that broke more candidates than any other. The instructors had the class in the water, kneeling in the freezing Pacific waves crashing over them. Hypothermia setting in with mathematical inevitability. A young woman knelt among the men. 23 years old, small frame. Determination that had carried her through 3 days of hell. But now she was close to breaking. So close. The cold had stolen her strength, her will, her belief that she could continue. The instructors were in her face, screaming, demanding she quit, telling her she didn't belong, that women weren't built for this, that she should ring the bell and save herself the humiliation. She was cracking. Everyone could see it. The other candidates had already written her off. Just another washout. Just another woman who couldn't hack it. From the beach, a figure watched, a woman in civilian clothes, leather jacket, coffee in hand, watching the training like she'd seen it before, like she'd lived it. The young woman in the surf looked up. Their eyes met across the distance. Sarah gave the slightest nod. Keep going. You've got this. Don't let them win. Something passed between them. Something that couldn't be spoken. Something that existed only in the space between warriors who understood what it meant to refuse to quit, to refuse to break, to keep pushing when everything said to stop. The young woman found something inside herself, something she didn't know was there, something that had been waiting for this exact moment to reveal itself. She stood up straighter in the water, stopped shaking, looked the instructor dead in the eye. I'm not quitting, instructor. The instructor studied her for a long moment, looking for weakness, looking for the crack that would let him break her. He found nothing but steel. Get back in formation. The young woman returned to her place among the candidates. The evolution continued, but something had changed. Everyone who'd seen the exchange knew it. Everyone who'd witnessed that silent communication understood. A torch had been passed. Sarah turned to leave. Her coffee was cold. Her jacket was wet from the spray. But she didn't care. She'd done what she came to do. A nearby instructor watched her go. Old school SEAL, 53 years old, Gulf War veteran, hard eyes that had seen things most people couldn't imagine. Who was that? A younger instructor asked. The Gulf War veteran was quiet for a moment. His eyes never left Sarah's retreating figure. Nobody. Nobody. She just talked that candidate off the ledge without saying a word. The old SEAL turned to face his colleague. His expression was unreadable, but something like reverence flickered in his eyes. She's proof that the best operators are the ones whose names will never be known, whose files have been redacted, whose sacrifices live only in the memories of those who served beside them. He watched Sarah disappear into the morning fog. Some heroes get parades. The best ones get forgotten, and they wouldn't want it any other way. Sarah walked into the fog, into obscurity, into the life she'd chosen. Behind her, a new generation was learning what it meant to serve, what it cost to be a SEAL, what it took to become someone who would never quit, never ring the bell, never leave a teammate behind. She thought about Marcus recovering in a hospital somewhere, probably wondering if he'd ever feel whole again. He would. It would take time, take work, take more strength than he thought he had. But he would heal, because that's what warriors did. They survived. They endured. They came back stronger. She thought about Ethan somewhere with Ivy trying to rebuild what he'd almost destroyed, trying to be the father his daughter believed he was. Some truths were too heavy for children to carry. Some sacrifices were too complicated to explain. But he'd figure it out. He'd find a way, because the alternative was unthinkable. She thought about Stone and Doc back with their units carrying classified medals they could never show anyone. They'd tell stories someday, to trusted friends, to fellow operators who understood. They'd talk about the ghost who'd led them into hell and brought them out again. And nobody would believe them. That was okay. The best stories were the ones that sounded like lies. She thought about Mitchell, retired now, probably sitting on a porch somewhere, watching the ocean, carrying his guilt like an old friend. He'd find peace eventually. Or he wouldn't. Either way, he'd know that he'd done one thing right at the end, one thing that mattered. Sarah reached her car, climbed inside, sat there for a moment staring at nothing. Her phone buzzed, a message from a number she didn't recognize. She opened it. 3 words, "They need you." Attached was a file. Coordinates, satellite imagery. A face she didn't recognize but would soon know better than her own. Another prisoner. Another mission. Another chance to keep her promise. Her phone buzzed again. A message from an unknown number with a Virginia area code. "Fair winds and following seas, Captain. You've given an old man peace. J.M." Sarah stared at the message. Mitchell, somewhere in retirement watching the ocean, finally free of the guilt that had haunted him for 5 years and 8 months. She typed back, "Thank you for believing in me, Admiral, for giving me the tools to keep my promise." The reply came quickly. "You gave me the chance to be the man I wanted to be. That's worth more than 40 years of ribbons." Sarah closed her eyes, felt the weight of David's trident pin in her pocket. The torch passed. The legacy continued. She started the engine. The fog swallowed her as she drove away. There were others out there, others waiting in cells in countries whose names most Americans couldn't pronounce. Others holding on by their fingernails, refusing to break, believing against all evidence that someone would come, someone would remember, someone would care enough to risk everything. Sarah would find them, one by one, mission by mission, ghost operation after ghost operation. She'd bring them home or die trying. The coordinates from the message burned in her mind. Another country, another facility, another impossible mission. In the rearview mirror, the Buds compound disappeared into fog. In her mind, she saw David's face. Not the moment he died, but the moment he'd first put on his trident. The pride in his eyes, the belief that they were both destined for something bigger. "I kept my promise, David," she whispered. "Marcus is home. The team is safe, and I'll keep going, for every brother and sister still out there." Her phone displayed the new coordinates. Another mission waiting. Another life to save. Sarah Kane Wraith, the operator who didn't exist, smiled, not with joy, with purpose. Because ghosts don't rest. They haunt the darkness until every last soul is brought home. She accelerated into the fog. The road stretched endless ahead. And somewhere in a cell no one knew existed, someone held on for one more day, because help was already coming.